My name is Derek Redmond, former British, European, Commonwealth World Champion athlete, two-time Olympian, also played basketball for England and also professional rugby. I'm now a motivational speaker and a business performance coach. What advice would I give someone when it comes to teaching, developing a culture when it comes to leadership and training? I think the first thing I would say is get yourself either a leadership coach, a leadership specialist, and work with them. Just like in sport, we're not coached just once. We don't have one training session and then expect to go and compete for the whole season. This is something that you need constant development. Things change, situations change, situations change, as I say. Organizations change and develop. So I think having a good organization and a good team and a good coach, if you like, working with you throughout that process is paramount to success. So I've been asked to give an example of where a training program that I've delivered has delivered some tangible results. There's quite a lot that comes to mind. I won't name the organisation, but I worked with an organisation that were really focused on their bottom line. That's all they were focused on, and everybody was expected to know where they were a sales company, where the figure was at any given day of the month. And they thought it was going to work and become real successful. What started to happen, it really started to put people off, and they started to lose people started to switch off, people were checking out, literally checking out, and not really being focused on what was going on. And I remember having a meeting with the senior leadership team, and I said, listen, if you begin to focus on your people, the results are going to start to take care of itself, because the moment you're focusing on the results, at the detriment of the people. You focus on your people and the results will come. And again, if you look at what happens in sport, yes, I wanted to be Olympic champion, yes, I wanted to be world champion, but I didn't focus on that Olympic medal. I focused on what was needed to be done in order to get that medal. And there is a difference. It might not seem a difference, but there is a huge difference between focusing on the results and focusing on what it takes to get those results. So that's what I would say for that. So how do I go about putting programs together for different companies when there's different companies, different organizations, different learning styles, different personalities and people? So the first thing that I tend to do is, we go in and do a bit of a recce, if you like, and have a look at the organization. We ask questions, and everything that I put together is personal towards that organization. I use a lot of psychometric assessments on individuals, and it sounds really scary, but they're not. They're online assessments that can take anything from 10 minutes to sort of 20, 25 minutes to complete. And that gives me and them an understanding of the way they like to work and behave inside and outside of the workplace. And one of the biggest areas that I have noticed over the years doing this sort of work is how to train that person. And again, in sport, and I keep coming back to sport because this is where I get a lot of my ideas and content from. You can coach two identical athletes who run exactly the same event and could be very similar in performance as I was with my training partner, but my coach coached just in two completely different ways. So sometimes you've got to learn and understand how to work with individuals and get through to them, because telling somebody to do something might work for somebody, asking somebody to do something might work with somebody, having a discussion and coming to the conclusion to get them to do that thing might be the way. Now you're getting them all to do the same thing, but there's three ways of getting it to do it. So that is really important, to understand the organisation that you're working with and how best to get the best out of them. So what part does leadership play when we're looking at training and development in an organisation? Well, obviously it's paramount. A good leader is somebody who doesn't just lead from the front, but they lead from behind. In other words, they're just not charging forward and hoping everybody's keeping up with them. They're actually behind, pushing everybody forward. So when it comes to training and development, for me, the first person that should be saying, yeah, do you know what, I need to get involved in this, is the people that are deemed as to be the leaders. I was once asked, what's a good leader? What makes a great leader? And to me, what makes a great leader is someone who allows everybody else to feel like they're leaders too. So you're trying to develop them just as much as you've been developed, if not more than what you've been, developed. So I think for me, it's paramount that leaders in organisation basically lead by example. And I say to a lot of people, sometimes the best place to lead is to lead from behind and push your team forward, rather than lead from in front and hope that they keep up with you. Some of the mistakes that people make, or organisations I should say, make when designing and putting into leadership programs into practice, is going with what's fashionable. These are the buzzwords, this is the buzz organisation that's doing this. Not really looking into their own organisation and what's needed for them. I think for me they're the two important things. I think the second thing that I said there is really understanding your organisation, your people, and what's needed for you to go forward. Don't look at your competitors and say, well, they're doing X, we need to do X, because again, it doesn't work like that. Just because someone trains in one way, it doesn't mean it's going to work for another person. So really taking some time and working with an organisation that are prepared to look at you, look at your organisation, and work out what's best for you, because this is all about you and your organisation, not about what is happening outside the field. And again, like I said earlier on, you get that bit right, actually the results begin to take care of themselves. So for me, that's paramount. So feedback and evaluation is really important. And again, with the use of psychometric assessments, it allows me to understand the people that I'm working with and how best to give them that feedback and that evaluation. We all need to have truthful, what I refer to as honest conversations. People call them difficult conversations. In sport, they're called honest conversations. We get into the business world, people tend to call them difficult conversations. They're not difficult, they're honest conversations. So if there is some feedback that needs to be given, again, what needs to be taken into consideration is how you give that feedback to that team or that individual. And whether it's something that's done on a one-to-one basis or in a group scenario, that really depends on the way that you've understood that person will accept that feedback, if you like. We all need feedback. No one gets everything right first time. You need to develop an environment where people are happy and prepared to take that feedback, because at the end of the day, this is for the benefit of them. And again, if I go back into sport, my coach and my dad had no qualms in telling me when things were going right, when things were going wrong, when I executed a race correctly or I didn't, or technically it was good or technically it wasn't, because it was the only way I was going to get better. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're saying to people, yeah, that's great, and it's not, or you're not saying anything at all. So feedback is very important, and it's just finding that right way and that right environment to give that all-important feedback back to that person. So yeah, ED&I principles into training and development, obviously, again in the last few years has been pushed to the forefront. It's something that I've been talking about for many years. To keep this really short, a much more diverse organisation gives you so much more options when it comes to things like employing people, when it comes to recruitment. If organisations see that you're very diverse, you're going to get a lot more diverse people applying for those roles, having different opinions, people from different backgrounds, different races, all these sort of things. When it comes to making decisions for an organisation, it's great to have a lot more of these of different angles and choices and areas to come from. And there's so many reports. I mean, I always quote McKinsey and company. There are others that talk about how, again, organisations that have a much more diverse workforce have, again, made so much more profit on that bottom line. And let's face it, that's pretty much what everyone really looks at an organisation. They measure it on the bottom line, and no matter how you say, what you say, people's and an organisation's performances and how well that organisation is doing. And as I say, there are reports, you don't have to take it from me, from the likes of McKinsey and Co, that have shown that organisations that have a much more diverse employee roster, for want of a better term, have a much higher rate of success as a business. So obviously now in the last few years, since 2020, since COVID, the workforce has become a lot more remote, and we've got a lot more people working, from home. So it does make the job a little bit more difficult when it comes to training and development, but I still think it's doable. People can have personal and individual coaches, mentors, whatever you want to say. I do believe there are occasions when you need to bring people together in order for people to work with the people that they work with, but they don't need to be in each other's pockets, and they don't need to be working with each other 7 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever the case may be. You just need to adapt the program where some of the stuff is done in group form, maybe some of the stuff is done in slightly smaller group form, and some of the stuff is done individually as well. It goes back to having someone who you can be held accountable to, whether you're in an office with 1,000 people or whether you're working at home. Accountability is one of the most important things when it comes to training and development, because actually it's down to what you do. As an athlete, when I was, my coach wasn't there 24/7, standing behind my shoulder with a stopwatch shouting in my ear. There were times when I was expected to go and do a particular session or whatever session. I went and did it. Now, I could have said to my coach, yeah, I've done it. He wouldn't have known, but I'm not only accountable to him, I'm accountable to myself. And all of that will come out, because the only person I'm going to be cheating is myself at the end, and it will show in the competition. And it's no different, within the business and corporate world. Accountability is important. And as long as you are accountable to somebody, whether you're doing this in a team environment or whether you're remote, then I think it can work.